This morning, we have more home cooked wisdom from Nathan G. on the sunny shores of Mission Bay, San Diego. This morning, I want to suggest a model for thinking about your consciousness and your sense of reality. If you've listened to me yammer on in the past, you will have noted that I love to think about models of reality. And that I argue that your reality, my reality, are nothing but models. I enjoy trying to get my mind around the model that the human mind, if there's any other kind of mind, is like a dictionary. The language mind is entirely made up of this is like that, just like the dictionary, and nothing in that system is able to reference anything outside the system. Nothing inside a dictionary can reference anything outside the dictionary. So now, once upon a time, I read that there's some fancy word for that, and if you come across it, be sure to advise me, as it might come in handy playing Scrabble. The model for the mind and reality that I proposed this morning is: think of your mind like a body taking up space. An initial use of this model is to think about the effect of someone in your reality who poses a threat. For example, a violent father or husband, a demanding, judgmental, cloying mother or spouse. This threat creates in the mind-body a space similar to a tumor. It takes up space that has to be negotiated with and negotiated around, much like a stone in your shoe. This tumor space limits the freedom of your mind-body because it has to be negotiated around. Now, consider what happens when the threatening person dies. The threat disappears, and all the mind-body muscles and habits for negotiating thrash against the empty space. Now, even though the tumor has disappeared, freedom is still limited because of these old habits. Consider then that this is a compelling reason to learn forgiveness, not because the threat deserves to be forgiven, but because you cannot afford the loss of freedom in negotiating the tumor space created by you preserving the threat or the resentment or the anger. A second use of this mind-body model is to become conscious of its mechanism for self-preservation. All living organisms, including your mind-body, have immune systems that prevent disruptions of its status quo. If you are extremely religious, you have an immune system to protect you from downloading or from misunderstanding God's grace, doubting God's grace. If you're an atheist, you have an immune system that blocks any evidence to the contrary. Here's a silly example, but if you're a child and you have an immune system that excludes evidence that your parents do unimaginable things in their bedroom, when you contemplate that they do, your mind-body is seriously disrupted. Real difficulty appears when your mind-body immune system was developed to protect you at a young age and then continues to protect you as an adult. Then it is no longer protection, but limitation. For example, your parents accidentally, or maybe intentionally, drive away and leave you. Standing there, too young to take care of yourself, suddenly amputated from connections you thought were eternal, you make something up. Maybe you create that the way to be taken care of is to become pathetically attractive, like a puppy or kitten. Surely you know people who are still running that immune system as adults. Maybe you create that the way to survive is to turn to stone, never crying, standing defiantly alone. I think you can imagine that living with, being married to, being parented by such an immune system would be very unpleasant. Maybe you can imagine that living inside that immune system is lonely without a clue as to why you are not loved. Same with the puppy and the kitten. Can't imagine why you are not loved, but the immune system is very strong. Now, that last sentence suggests a feature of the mind-body system that is shared with your body's immune system. Sometimes the body's immune system triggers what's called a cytokine storm. There are actually several immune systems in the body, and a cytokine storm triggers all of them all at once, and that usually fills the lungs with fluid, and you drown. The mind-body system can become so powerful when threatened by rejection, abandonment, humiliation, that the mind-body completely withdraws from other people or lashes out to crush other people and their threats. The challenge before us then is to maintain the integrity of the mind-body so that we can recognize that water is wet, rocks are hard, and people have love to give. But at the same time, loosening the grip of immune systems that exclude realities we chose at a young age. And at the same time, cut out the tumor spaces of anger, resentment, and fear. Now, how we do that has to await me receiving enlightenment on the shores of Star Lake in my hot tub. Until then, I can offer that the first step is consciousness. When you become aware of the tumor spaces and your immune systems, they no longer negotiate you and limit you. Or at least you have a choice whether to be negotiated and limited. Bye now. Future to follow.